It's recording. Were we not recording the whole time?
Seems like every road you're on is hit a dead end. There is hope. Let me show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's been a week. It's been a day.
It has been. We don't have any, we have no one commenting yet, but in the future, we'll just say, Hello, children. Hello, people. Coming to our lowly podcast of of barren comment sections, both on YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We bear no comments.
Yeah, no one's commenting yet. So that must mean that they're just so captivated by, what we're talking about that they can't even formulate sentences yet.
Right. It's so intriguing. It takes
So
up
intriguing.
all the pieces of the brain.
All of it. Got that right.
How are you?
I'm all right. I'm ready to do this podcast after technical difficulties and stupidities. I'm ready.
And me trying to understand what you're saying and trying to help the best way I can while I'm half awake.
I know, and this is your episode. How dare you? You should have been injecting caffeine in your veins a long time ago.
I don't have coffee in the house, and no,
It's in the red.
Your coffee.
Yeah, you can have it. What am I? I'm not there. When am I gonna drink it? It goes bad.
I didn't know you were buying it for the house. So.
I mean, I bought it for me, but I didn't take it back after the holidays. I have different
thank you for letting me know this at this episode.
Yeah, you can go make some coffee now.
No, we have an episode to record. Time is of the essence.
We're recording now. So let's go.
No.
Let's go.
So
this episode, we're talking about Ellie's story. Last episode, we talked about mine. But this story, this time around, this is going to highlight more of Ellie's situation. And I feel like for your stories, it's going to be better to kind of do it like an interview style.
Sure.
Just because my story and your story are so different in terms of linear happenstance, Yeah. And just in terms of timeline. And your story in a lot of ways blurs a lot of timelines. So I'll be here to help kind of navigate that.
Noticed last episode.
Well, and even in talking a few days ago about what we're supposed to be talking about today, you were like, wait, so I'm talking about what? And I'm like, it had to get to a point where I'm like, ages 3 to 17. That's it. Just go there. That's what you're talking about. Or maybe not. Maybe into your early 20s too. But
we'll find out.
This episode, we'll find out. But this episode, we're really going to want to talk about your memory. Talk about, like, if you can, talk about the fake memories, like the fake truth, the fake story that you were led to believe, and try to, on top of that, talk about what was really happening. So, like, for example, your story is different than mine. I never experienced brainwashing.
Yeah.
So you grew up with a reality that you didn't know what was happening. Like, you didn't really know the truth. You know the truth now. So in order for you to go back and identify the abuse, you kind of have to balance both worlds of the fakeness and also on the same hemisphere identify and explain what was really happening. So you're kind of you have to juggle in your memory, whereas I don't. Mine was so straightforward in terms of abuse because of the difference. So
right.
I guess I guess the best way to start for you is like go back to your earliest memories of like let's just start with your childhood. Like what do you remember from your childhood?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, no, I
uh
know. It's a lot to unpack.
oh well, yeah, well, and emotionally and mentally prepping for this episode too. I'm over here talking to God like I don't remember. I have a very select few memories,
Mm-hmm.
or they're extremely vague. Um,
Right.
it's not that I chose to and said, you know what, we're gonna make new memories or anything. It's been a aspect of simply my brain can only have so much capacity,
Right.
but as time has gone on, I've also learned that uh, your body and your mind try to suppress bad memories on its own.
Right.
So
They do.
just a self preservation protection thing. I don't recall I cannot tell you specifically. Yeah, this is fake. But I can tell you what I remember as like my earliest memories, probably going back to whenever we celebrated like Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. I remember we went over to our aunt's house, and the norm was that all what I don't know what the number is, but all of us would go hang out and eat dinner. There was two different areas to eat dinner, but then
Mm-hmm.
when we were done, our abuser would decide to go ahead and take younger brother and I into this other part of the house that was like totally isolated and totally
Mm-hmm.
separate from everybody.
Right.
And I remember that being just time to spend with dad, and time to hang out and connect and do all these things. But then to bring the truth in that, after 20 plus years, I realized that that was one of his ways to try to isolate us out of a family picture and what a family unified family looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And uh pointing that specific trait out, now I look back and compare all the rest of memories to recognize like, oh yeah, he decided to take younger brother and I out for camping this one time, for no rhyme or reason. Or
Mm-hmm.
whenever I remember when you mentioned in last episode of how you were emotionally responsible for his actions, or he was verbally vomiting into saying
Mm-hmm.
that I need to change, and it gave that empty space for you to then say, I'll help you, I'll help fix you and stuff like that. He did versions of that
Mm-hmm.
where whenever mom and him had fights, and I don't recall you being in the house at this time, and mom would walk out of the room or something, I remember he would be like, what did I do wrong? Type of questions to me and younger brother, or just to me. So as I'm speaking, I realize that these are all totally different timelines that I'm bringing up right now.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, your story is harder to pin down. So why don't we start with as a child, what were you led to believe? Because you can identify um like you knew that Zach and mom were the bad ones. That's what you were led to believe, right? They were the toxic ones. They were the bad ones. They were the ones that we were the ones that didn't love you. We were the ones that
No,
whatever, whatever, whatever.
no,
Like
I was more led to believe that our abuser was the hero.
right,
And I was more
ergo,
led
we're the villains. Like dad's the
no,
hero. The other ones are the problem children.
not quite. I was more led to believe that um that Zach and Mom have their own world, and so partially right. Zach and Mom have their own world, and they're gonna go into their own island. And me talking as our abuser, I'll save you guys. I'll protect you guys. I consider your emotions. I will do things for you. I'll buy you the things. I'll take you to camping trips. I'll do these things for you because I love you. Overall, he just planted different lies in the course of 20 something years, and it was the tactic of Zach and Mom don't understand us. They're gonna just do their own thing. And how he implemented that was whenever you were in town and you and Mom wanted to go and get breakfast or go run and do groceries or whatever you guys wanted to do, you have that free will to do it. But it was whenever, like, you coming back into town from school or something and you left, I recall vaguely he would be like, there they go again.
Mm-hmm.
That times however many time space that was,
Right.
there they go, there they go again, or they just left us on our own, or what. I guess they're allowed to leave, or he just some sort of condescending comment to just continue planting the seeds of Zach and Mom are gonna do their own thing without us.
Yeah, no, that's what I kind of mean. Like he just like in the last episode we talked about, you can still be abusive by not holding to the stereotypical definition of abuse. So he didn't outright call Mom and I abusive. He didn't outright call us like we like each other more. We don't want anything to do with you guys. But he still, with your explanation, he still created the reality that he was the safe one. We were not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So talk about that. Like, because that didn't just happen on like your 12th birthday. You know, like that didn't just happen. That had to have been a reoccurring, constant, like instilling that into you. And I know you probably can't like pinpoint like, oh yeah, that happened when I was 4, but like, but talk about that. Like,
sure.
What did you feel when your father would say stuff like that? How would you perceive your mother when he would say stuff like that? What would your internal belief be when he would create that scenario and then go, see, I told you, talk about that. Because that instill, I believe, with you, because I had no idea. Like, I knew, like, he treated you guys differently, but Mom and I had no idea what he was telling you. And you and I can talk about, we'll talk about that in later podcast episodes where, like, you and I still find out to this day of stuff, oh yeah, he said this a long time ago, or he would tell us this. And I was like, I had no idea, right? So we're still uncovering that, to this day. But talk about as a kid, as someone who felt like the only person that loved you or was in your court fighting for you was your abuser. Like, talk about that. Like, what was that world like? Because I didn't ever see you sad or depressed, but maybe you were, and I just never saw it, I
mentioned to someone yesterday that knew me in high school, as a segue into this, not a random thing that's not related to this, that I said, I know now that back in high school I was struggling, and I don't know, I'm talking to this person, I don't know what you remember of me or what spirit I was back then or the energy that I had, but it would be definitely telling that I didn't want to go home if I was at school that was just down the street of my house from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every single night. And really what I was subconsciously dealing with was I just didn't want to go home because school was safer than home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, at that time I didn't know it, but really what it was is that it felt like the house, the childhood house that I'm talking about, was always a trap of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And what led up to that were moments like what I've already described about how our abuser would, see, I told you, or planting seeds of, Mom and Zach and whatnot. But there
Mm-hmm.
came a time where, and I'm going to go back and forth in different timelines, but just to showcase his behaviors, there was a time where I was in college and had frequent phone calls with him because he's my father. I want to connect with him. And I remember he would say things about our younger brother and saying things of he's so stupid, or he's really dumb with his choices. I don't even understand the guy. And there was a time where I said, why are you talking about my brother that way?
Yeah.
Because, mind you, this is what, I'm 19 years old, 20 years old. And
Mm-hmm.
there's been this trio, famous Three Musketeers of us hanging out all the time and doing groceries, going camping. And we had our gang. We were hanging out. And he's turning around the
Mm-hmm.
corner and saying, yeah, he's being really stupid. He's being really dumb. And it's, wait a minute. I thought we were this quote unquote Three Musketeers thing. Why are you talking so negatively about him? He's your
Mm-hmm.
son. He's my younger brother. He can't defend himself while you're talking like this about him. That's when that clicked. But then hopping back to a different area, because as I'm talking about it, more things are revealing right now. I think another area that I realized that you and I discussed off of the podcasts, I remember you were pointing out about how we were, our abuser, younger brother, and I were just always in the know of different scenarios and always hanging out. And we were so knit tight. Knit tight? Is that the word? Tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
That there, I don't know what you had said, but I mentioned like, no, we weren't really tight knit. In fact, I remember I felt like that I was the black sheep of them three.
Oh yeah, because you were talking about a time. I remember that you were talking about a time you went camping, and you were left out, and it was just our abuser and our brother kind of doing their own thing like the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
or
and
there
I
was a
and I
time.
hold on, and my that's our sibling relationship. I always talk, and then she gets like an
Sorry.
epiphany or a side tangent, and it interjects, and then I forget what I'm talking about. So this was me saying, no, I need to remember my train of thought. During that, when you were talking about that experience, and I think we were talking about it because we were talking about just like how it was so stressful to always go camping with him.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and so we just got on this tangent, and you were just talking about an experience of just you three, and it caused me to have to redefine what I had previously thought. We're talking like a conversation that happened like a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
you know. But up until that point, like 2023, 2024, I had this belief like you guys were just always like tight knit. You guys, it was just you three, and you were explaining no, it was actually I was a third wheel
Mm-hmm.
because they would go off and do like their own thing, and I was there for the ride, but like I was left out of a lot of stuff, and I just thought that's not what I thought at all. I thought you and that always made me. We're kind of getting off side tangent here, but but I remember talking about that and going, I never would have thought that, but it kind of makes sense because I always wondered how come you guys are all tight knit, yet you and your brother have always had a really tumultuous relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but what you're saying makes sense. If you were kind of the third wheel, it makes sense how you were both, how it was possible for all three of you to be together, yet your younger brother and you always having this combative relationship of not truly like connecting.
Yeah.
But going back to you though, I would say go back to what you were saying.
Because I just had a flashback to an episode where two different things. One, our parents temporarily separated right before I started high school, and our abuser moved out. He had his own apartment, and they were trying to figure out next steps. I don't remember all the details per se, but I remember that whenever it was our time, our younger brother and I, to go over to our abuser's house, apartment, whatever that setup and getup was, that was time to play. That, like, there was like no responsibilities. We were able to play and drink, what was it, not milkshakes, root beer floats, and eat crappy foods, and like our abuser intentionally tried to make it as fun as possible. Like, to further describe an experience that I felt left out, was when our father and my younger brother built a potato gun. That the ammo was the potato, but what fueled it to pop and shoot or whatever was doing hairspray and some sort of igniter thing that would, just because of the pressure and a sparkler, it would pop. I was not a part of any of that whatsoever in terms of building it or the scopes of it or whatnot. I just ended up being the video recorder person and take videos of them and all the funny videos and whatnot. Like that timeline specifically, I look back at it, there was never videos of me. There was always videos of abuser and younger brother. It's sad now that I'm saying it out loud, because that's just sad. So like there's no memories of us three in terms of photos or videos or anything like that. It was always them two, and I did the videos of them. So that's kind of how I got into doing video as a side gig of mine now. But a different memory I wanted to point out that resembles how you mentioned last episode of what kind of clicked for you of this is not okay, was when I was younger than the previous story I mentioned. And I don't know, our brother probably was like 8, 9, 10, and whatever respective, I'm 2 years older, so whatever respective time that is. One time we were camping, and younger brother was holding a flashlight to set up the tent, because for whatever reason we decided to set up the tent in the middle of the dark and trying to figure out the pieces and whatnot. And I remember abuser was getting frustrated and mad because younger brother is a 10-year-old kid just wanting to play with a flashlight and is pointing it to where it needs to go. And then once our abuser has it all set up or is fixing it, he moves the flashlight. He can't stay still. No 10-year-old can stay still for more than like 5 seconds or whatever. And so he's getting pissed off and saying like, quit it, stop it, or whatever. And he's not. And then finally he just slaps the heck out of our younger brother's chest. And I remember I got scared because then he couldn't breathe because of just that shock of, what is it, whiplash or something? Just where that impact.
Yeah. He was a little kid. Like just for context, he was a short little kid. When he went through puberty, he like shot up, but he was a small
he was tiny
kid, and our abuser at that time was least he was strong. So it wasn't like strong. A little love tap. It was like a slap is like you're going through the wall kind of. Well, not that strong, but it knocks you out.
Knock the wind out of him, not whiplash. why did I say whiplash? I don't know. But
I
knocked the
know.
wind out of him. And
Yeah.
literally within moments, I was freaking out because I'm like, what do I do? I've never been in this situation before, but what do I do? The person I would call
Yeah.
is a mom or dad. My dad just hurt him and he can't breathe. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And just that internal panic that I was having of, oh crap, he's not breathing. What do we do? I'm like 12
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. I don't know nothing about any of that.
Right.
And I honestly don't even remember how that calmed down, but I just remember our younger brother was freaking out because he couldn't breathe. So that was a hint of realizing that even though our abuser hasn't necessarily, for me, been physically aggressive to me, I just remember that was an instance of him showcasing his dominance of like, he can definitely do a number on you. Doesn't matter that you're his own kid. He was knocking the wind out of our younger brother and he was freaking out. I was freaking out just because of you never thought that you would lose your breath and you can't breathe. And the moment that you are, you're freaking out and it's the worst case scenario. How do you survive this type of thing?
Right.
But there's been other instances where he's showed his physical dominance in other scenarios, how he's yelled at mom, I remember when you would hide us in one of our bedrooms, I remember just hearing how loud he is, but his footsteps and him hitting something like a chair or a couch. I don't remember him hitting our mom, but I remember he was just scary. His dominance was a monstrous physical aspect of him where it was just subconsciously trained to not mess with him in that capacity too.
Speaking of that, I could be wrong, but don't you have a memory of when you were a young adult? I'm talking like late teenage years or maybe even early teenage years of him charging at you in the hallway and you being scared.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that.
I couldn't remember if that was a dream that you had and it scared you or if that was a real thing that happened. And
No, that was a
you
real
didn't,
thing.
was it a real, well, you want to talk about that? I
Sure.
just bring that up because that kind of
Talking about the
reminded me.
dominance.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't ever hit you, but
Mm,
he would act in ways as if he were going to in order to get you to do something or make you afraid of him. Because he would do this,
yeah.
he would do similar stuff to me too, like that.
So if I remember that correctly, um that was around the timeline you were not in the house at that time. I think you were in college. And uh he and I had issues, and to this day I don't remember what they were exactly, but he the way I can describe it is like almost as soon as when you left the house for college, he then turned anger towards me and he was verbally and emotionally fighting me. And I remember going to their marriage counselor saying, I need help. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's happening. And
Oh,
if I
that was when
could,
I left the second time.
you left at a time.
No, but
You weren't,
like you were like a teenager is what I'm saying. Because
yeah,
I only say that
yes.
because when I left for college, you were still like in middle school.
Oh, yeah, I was.
So I was
Either,
thinking like, wait, she was 11, 12? No, but I know yeah, you were a middle-aged teenager at that point.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
in high school already. And I remember going to the counselor.
Well,
Yes.
question, do you remember if this was during the separation or was this
No,
after the
it was
2-year separation and he came back into
correct.
the house? Oh. Yep. Okay. Continue.
What?
Sorry.
Oh, what?
No, that just brings a different flair to it.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah. Um, yeah, because things should have been fixed and he was
Yeah.
allowed to come back in the
Because
house and stuff.
he
Yeah.
he I know he left in 2014 and he came back into the house 2016 and I wasn't there for that. I was living somewhere else. But there was
Yeah.
it wasn't like a 2 month separation. They were separated for a long time, and
Yeah.
then some. I don't know what happened, but eventually he did come back. So you're
Mm,
talking about this time. You're a teenager. You're in high school. You're dealing with already the separation.
yeah.
That whole thing. Now he's back,
Yeah.
and you're having this experience with him.
Yeah.
That's just the
If I'm
context that I'm trying to provide here. Of
sure.
just like
No.
whole, like you said,
Yeah.
he should have been better. There should have been changes. Yet now he's going after you.
So it it wasn't just a random Tuesday I'm walking out of the kitchen and he chases me type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. This
Mm-hmm.
is a timeline where, sorry, that was just a funny visual.
It was just
This
yeah.
is
Sorry, I get
this
you.
was a this was a timeline where he I don't remember it to a T. I've asked my mom. I don't even
What
remember why.
happened?
I remember there were issues, but I don't remember why, what happened, what was going
Mm-hmm.
on, what were the arguments. But
Mm-hmm.
that was a season where I became really afraid. And as we're talking, more would reveal as I'm talking of just the flashbacks where I want to say we were going to our counselor pretty frequently, or I was at least, because I just remember the sense of I'm afraid of him. How he's treating me is so opposite than what I remember he has been treating me for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why it's been a complete switch. And I remember mom was trying to help me. So imagine our mom who's receiving the brunt of this abusive person and monstrous person, and now she's trying to tend to her daughter to try to somewhat combat in a loving relationally way to keep this relationship with father. So all that turmoil, but it was just a season of some sort of bickering between he and I, and he would just attack me out of nowhere. And that was his status quo of, you did something wrong and I'm trying to figure it out, and it's just a guessing game to try to figure out what did I do wrong to get you this upset. And him coming at me of, well, you should already know. I don't. It'd be nice if you told me and be direct with me. Well, you should already know this. You should know this about me. And just this constant back and forth of, back then, this is when I started learning this people pleasing thing and just trying to be above and beyond, Miss Goody Two Shoes, go above and beyond just to make it a wonderful picture perfect thing. But you're not telling it to me directly, so I must have done something wrong. And in that context about the story we're trying to bring up, all I remember was it was just back and forth and I was getting emotional and I didn't understand what was going on. More or less, it just became escalated and escalated and escalated. And all that I remember in that instance was, mind you, I don't know, 5'8", 5'10", 5'11". I don't know how tall he is, but he was
Yeah.
300 pounds or so. Big dude. I'm a freaking stick. And he physically, he just took a step forward, but it wasn't like I'm just going to stroll over here. It was a very abrasive step forward in the middle of this escalated environment. And I decided to book it. And how our childhood home was built was that there was just a one strip hallway that, yes?
It looked like your middle finger.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to just, I'm not. Let me finish my story. Let me tell you something. No. What I was trying to describe is that our hallway was just a one strip hallway for the entire house. So you go down this hallway, there's one restroom, there's one person's bedroom, another person's bedroom, and then our parents' bedroom, my bedroom in the restroom. And when he decided to take that, it was like a it wasn't a step, but it's just one of those really abrasive, like, come at me type of stances.
He charged you. He charged at you.
Yes, he charged at me. We were already at like a 3 foot, 4 foot distance away from each other, but he decided to charge at me in the middle of our escalated argument of some sort, and I booked it down this hall. And when I booked it, I ran into the bedroom and mom was there, and mom wasn't there. No, she wasn't in her bedroom. She was at the end of the hall because she started walking out to figure out what's going on. And I ran to her. I started sobbing to her. I'm like, I don't understand. He's attacking me. He's running at me. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. I don't understand what's going on. He's just running at me, and I'm blubbering at this point. I probably wasn't making any sense at all. But it was just an intense. I can think of like red zone is a danger zone. For some reason, I'm just confused that we were docile and all of a sudden we're in a red zone and I don't understand what's happened, how we got here. And that's honestly all that I remember of that memory. But I just remember everything, all the arguments and the intensities came out of nowhere. There was no warning. There was no soft approach to things to try to understand the other person. It was the constant, you did something to make me feel bad. And what did I do? You should have already figured this out by now. How dare you treat me this way? I don't understand you. Can you tell me more? But at this point, I was 17, 16, trying to understand a 40-something-year-old. And he's not telling me exactly his emotions. And yeah, that was a really, really, really scary moment because he, at this point, I don't remember if he's done anything similar to that. But there was another similar instance of that. It was worse. But I don't know if you want me to share that story too, where it was the last time I saw him in person.
No, yeah, share it, but that's going to be like your walk away story. That was like the final crux that made you walk away, or at least had a huge impact into that. So yes, we do want to hear it, but not
now.
And that's why your story is so difficult, because your trauma is so tied to your walk away, just like mine is, but yours is so intimately woven into your abuse was different than mine.
It was intertwined with love bombing.
Yeah,
he would buy whatever I wanted. Like, he got me my first phone and didn't talk to our mom. He paid for my phone bill when I was supposed to pay for it. No, I got you this time. Or when I had a boyfriend in high school, I was supposed to come by a certain time because that's what mom and him agreed on, or I thought. And I decided to keep pushing the curfew because I was a teenager and I wanted to test the limits. And instead of being home by 10, I left the house, this person's house, 20 minutes away at like 10:05 and call our abuser, hey, I'm on my way. I'm sorry. Whatever the excuse is. And it's fine. Just don't tell mom. Or just whatever he would try to make it seem like he is on my side. He's going to protect me. And just this facade to make me believe that he's on my side. And then went to the extreme of what I've described already, of just intertwining this belief that he loves me, he's gonna do all these things for me, and then mixing with that, I'm thinking of like crocheting or knitting, of just, you have this type of yarn and this type of yarn, you got this gradient looking yarn that's gonna change colors and stuff like that. But with our abuser, he created this Three Musketeers with younger brother, him and I, but I was in the corner, but we were all together at the same time. But he made sure to feed me, but he bought me my favorite ice cream, or like, there's these tiny little increments that maybe he's not that bad, was the message overall.
So I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
And they're kind of different, but I think it'd be really interesting to get your insight, just because I've kind of asked you these before, but not at the same time.
Okay.
So my question, one of the questions that I'm I currently have in my mind is while all this was going on, okay, so like I'm talking about when you were a child,
Okay.
teenager, young adult, you're getting charged at, you're getting love bombed, you're witnessing your brother getting hurt,
Mm-hmm.
you're being told that, your older brother and your mom don't love you the same way that he loves you, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
He's whether or not you want to make it extreme or not, he created a divide on purpose to
Yeah.
segment us away from you. So while you were experiencing all of that, what was your perception of your mother and me? Because if we were the
Yeah.
ones that didn't want relationship, if we were the ones that liked each other more, you guys were lower tier, what was that going on in your mind of like, okay, so here's my abuser who's telling me that he's my hero and that he loves me and he's there to support me, but I'm seeing all this stuff. So I feel stuck, but yet my relationship with my brother and mom are estranged. Like, what was that world
Mm.
like for you? Because I can't imagine that, because like you and I never talked about that as kids. You never came to me and said, hey, this is what he's doing. Hey, this is what I saw. So, like, there was obviously something that prevented you connecting with us on the other side of the aisle where we think that you're doing
Yeah.
great. We think you're living your best life, yet you're getting you're getting gaslit and you're getting brainwashed and
Mm.
you are being manipulated. So like, what was that world like for you?
It was internal turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way I could describe it is that he was our abuser was more or less training my train of thought to be the victim. So whenever there came a certain timeline where, I don't know, after high school, around high school, whenever you were in town, I think it was after high school or something where instead of him saying there go mom and Zach again, you know, uh it became my train of thought of there they go again.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a certain timeline where it started to click that his words became my words to myself. And it was confusing because mom and I would go thrift shopping. We would go hang out. We did theater together. That we have good memories during the chaos with it behind the curtain. Our abuser is telling me all these things that I would believe to be truth, because why would my father lie to me about my relationship with my mother? But
Right.
it's been so ingrained in me up until like 25 or so that now, being healed, looking back at it, I was being trained to believe that our mom didn't have my best interest at heart, and
Mm-hmm.
that she really cared about Zach over me because Zach is her firstborn, and, they had their own life together before our abuser and me. So, because that existed and they had their own world, that's why she chooses him over me. So it just came a point of literally our abuser's words became my words of self-talk to myself.
Yeah.
And those words are not taken lightly. Of my mom chooses my older brother over me. She must love him more than me. She favors him more than me. They're so like each other. I'm so different. She wouldn't love me. And it's just this cycle where he made me believe mom didn't love me.
Yeah.
we're designed as human beings to be loved by a mom and a dad. But looking back in my chaos, it makes sense why I was in my own chaos, because I was led to believe that my mom, who sacrificed her life for me, and I almost died at my birth,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't willing to sacrifice anything more for me and
Yeah.
and go above and beyond for me, which is so incredibly awful, because she was there every step of the way when I had my chaos with our abuser, and she would try to help aid me to build my relationship with him when he was attacking me in that season of him being back in the house, and that when he charged me, and that whole season, like, she was there every step of the way in trying to help me keep my relationship with my father.
Mm-hmm.
She was there in all the great memories when it was just her and I doing theater. Like, she was the one that was getting the most abuse, and yet she still sought for me to have a relationship with the person who's been abusing her.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember there was a season where you and her even said, "Oh, there's no way that he would treat you the way that he treats mom," and then he did. And that was its
Yeah.
own thing too. But overall, to answer your question, I went side tangent there. It was just rotten. I can just imagine my heart being so hurt,
Yeah.
believing everything that our abuser said, and looking at mom, looking at you, and just this train of thought of, they are so like each other, I'm not like that. They can't love me the way that I am. If mom and brother are so alike and they stay connected, or whatever the facade that he made me believe, it then furthered my belief that I couldn't fit in. And that click that he made me believe that only you two had, and only you two can have with each other and nobody else, and you can't connect with anybody else beyond you two, it furthered my idea of isolation within myself.
Yeah.
To then, I need to rely on him and everything that he tells me, because he's telling me the truth, obviously. So why would I believe what my brother, my older brother, or what my mom will say? If they love me, they would act differently. And I'm being told one thing in one ear from my father, and not believing whatever true love that you and mom were actually giving. And I knew you loved me back then. Now I do. Back then I didn't. I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah. I mean, you even mentioned in last episodes, or last episode, that there was a time where you hated me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know why. I mean, I can assume why.
Sure.
You know, with what you were taught to believe and
Right.
and whatnot. You know, but like the sad part, and I can't speak for your story, but the sad part is your mother and I never, even in the midst of us being abused, we never brought you into it. We never sat you aside, you know, and be like, you know, this is what's really going on. Like, we kept you out of it, and we did our best to be there for you, knowing that even when we were trying to connect with you, we would get our butts kicked. Because us trying to engage or show love or anything was a threat to our abuser's story that
Yes.
we were bad and he was not, and you needed him in order to be safe. And so, and it sucks because someone can only be abused for so long until they kind of go, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that was necessarily a factor with your mom and I, but when you have to go into survival mode, you go into survival mode. So I'm sure there were things that I did of like, oh, like, Zach's not talking to me the same way. He's not engaging with me the
Right.
same way. He's changing. It must be my abuser was right. He was right this whole time. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
like, I love my sister, but if I step out of line or if I get too close, I'm gonna get it, and I don't want to get it anymore, And
Right.
so he created the reality that you know we were the bad ones.
Well, and it really affected yours and my relationship when I moved out for college and I was near you at that time. And I don't, you can recall it better than me. I don't remember much of our conversations because they almost didn't exist when we were in the same city or near each other enough to be able to drive to
Mm-hmm.
each other. And I remember just I was in my own chaos, so I was so far deep into the lies unknowingly from our abuser that I just solely believed that you did not know me, when in reality what it was that I didn't even know me. I was
Yeah.
believing the lies so much that they became my truth, and
Mm-hmm.
that I did not seek you to, in a godly manner. I did not come to you and say, hey, X, Y, and Z, this is what I've been told. I want to run this by you because that doesn't seem right. I didn't give you the benefit of the doubt or anything like that. I just believed it and I took it and I ran with it and it became my everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember I just didn't tolerate you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I wasn't interested in a relationship with you because in some way or form our abuser still kept in check those lies of talking about
Yeah.
how dare Zach or whatever. Whenever, going back to the phone calls that I had with him, whatever
Mm-hmm.
interaction I had with you, he would then say, like, I just don't understand, Zach. Why would he do that to you? Like, that's how our abuser would talk to me. What with whatever we did, which is weird. On a fun thing, there's times where I went over to the house you were at because I needed help with theory, and there were great memories in that. And yet I still believed these things simultaneously, that you have no interest in a relationship with me, even though you went through hours into helping me in music theory. I was still
Mm-hmm.
believing that you had no interest in maintaining a relationship with me, when in reality, I had horrible social skills and I was the one retreating and not maintaining a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, you weren't. At that point, you were still in a relationship with your abuser. You hadn't
Mm-hmm.
stepped away, even though there was a geographical difference. You were still connected, and he was just doing what he always did, just long distance.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
did. And that
and
didn't break away until I moved as far as Texas. Again, it was with a relationship, so that I'm
right.
not with anymore. But there came a point, I'm in no relationship actually, so none of them were successful. Um, the I want to say almost immediately when I landed in Texas, I called both mom and our abuser and said, "Hey, I can't do relationship right now." I was trying to
Hmm.
do like a clean slate. Again,
Yeah.
not realizing how much of this chaos was really rooted in our abuser, but I just said, I can't do this. I need to go no contact. I need to figure this out on my own. I
Hmm.
don't know what I need, but I know I need to stop this.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that drove our abuser crazy. In fact, I've asked mom now, in rekindling and everything like that. She remembers a time where he after I made that phone call, he was just disgruntled all the time, where mom would be like, hey, have you heard from Ellie? I don't know why she's not talking to me. I don't know. Like, he was obviously mad that he didn't have connection with me, but I want to believe in the psychology of him that it's because he couldn't control the story anymore and couldn't control me anymore, that me deciding to disconnect and try to figure out life on my own was like an alarm in his system of like, she's gonna know the truth. We gotta avoid it or whatever. And I don't know, man. Hey guys, so after Zach and I recorded this episode, we realized it was 2 hours long. So we went ahead and decided that we're doing part 1 and part 2. So this is actually the end of part 1, but stay tuned. We will have that part 2 out shortly. So we will see you then.